For months she kept quiet. She endured his cruelty, swallowing her pain, convincing herself that staying silent was the safest choice. But when he finally went too far, when he crossed a line that couldn't be ignored, her father, the town's newly appointed police chief, made sure justice wasn't just a word. It became reality. West Ridge Middle School's lunchroom was no war zone, not the kind with fists flying or trays being launched across the room. No, this battlefield was silent, more insidious. Here, battles were fought with glances, with whispers, with the unspoken rules that determined everything. Who belonged, who didn't, who mattered, who never would. 13-year-old Eva Sinclair sat at the very end of the cafeteria, her back hunched slightly, fingers idly picking at the edges of her peanut butter sandwich. She wasn't really hungry. Not anymore. Across the room, 2 tables away, voices dropped to hushed tones, but not quiet enough. "Why does she always sit alone?" a voice muttered. "Maybe she doesn't have any friends," another sneered. Eva had heard it all before. It wasn't new. It wasn't surprising. Being an outsider was something she'd grown used to. She wasn't just another student at West Ridge. She was one of the few black students. And from the moment she had set foot in those hallways, she had learned one thing with certainty. Blending in wasn't an option, no matter how hard she tried. So she stopped trying. She made herself small, invisible, a shadow slipping through the halls, keeping to herself. It was easier that way. But Connor didn't want her to disappear. Well, he wanted the exact opposite. To him, Eva was a game, a target he had claimed for himself. He wasn't just some random kid at school. Connor was the boy who moved through the halls like he owned them, who carried himself with a kind of confidence that only came from privilege. Son of a well-known businessman. Friends in every circle. The kid teachers praised. The name parents mentioned with admiration. The boy who could charm his way out of any trouble. And for the past month, he had decided that Eva Sinclair was his favorite source of entertainment. It started with little things. A shove here, a smirk there. Her books mysteriously tumbling off her desk. A harmless bump in the hallway that sent her stumbling. Things too small to be called bullying. Just kids being kids, right? That's what they always said. But Connor didn't stop there. Today it was her lunch. She had barely taken a bite when suddenly, her paper bag was snatched from the table. Her heart jumped into her throat. She looked up, already knowing who it was before she saw his smirk. Connor stood there, grinning like he was the star of some sick comedy show. "What do we have here, Sinclair?" he mused, shaking the bag like it held something disgusting. He ripped it open, pulling out her sandwich with an exaggerated grimace. "Peanut butter. Seriously?" He wrinkled his nose. "Guess your dad's new job doesn't pay enough for real food." Laughter rippled through the table behind him. Eva's fingers curled under the table. Her jaw tightened. She forced herself to stay still, to stay quiet. She always did. Connor leaned in, his voice dripping with mock concern. "You know, you should really say thank you," he said, voice low, taunting. "I'm just trying to help you with your diet." Then, with a flick of his wrist, he tossed the sandwich over his shoulder. The soft splat of it hitting the floor sent a sharp pain through her stomach. Well, she wasn't going to cry. Not here. Not now. She reached down, fingers trembling slightly, to grab what was left of her lunch. But before she could, a foot came down. Hard. The sickening sound of peanut butter and bread being crushed against the tile echoed in her ears. Connor smirked. Oops. For a split second, the entire world seemed to shrink. It was just Eva. The ruined sandwich. The echo of their laughter. She could feel the weight of their eyes, the anticipation hanging in the air. They were waiting, expecting. What would she do? But she already knew. Slowly, she grabbed her backpack, stood up and walked. Past the tables. Past the whispers. Past the snickers and the heat stinging behind her eyes. She pushed through the cafeteria doors, her footsteps steady, refusing to give them the reaction they wanted. She kept walking. Down the hall. Past the lockers. Straight into the girls' bathroom. Inside, she locked the stall, sank onto the closed toilet lid, and took a slow, measured breath. This was nothing new. She would wait. Let the lunch bell ring. Slip out unnoticed. Pretend none of it happened. Because reporting it wouldn't change a thing. Teachers would say, "Just ignore him." The principal would call it a misunderstanding. And tomorrow, it would all happen again. But what Eva didn't know was that tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow she wouldn't just endure it. Tomorrow she would fight back. And Connor would push her further than he ever had before. But for now, all she could do was wait. That afternoon, Eva barely spoke. The moment she stepped inside her house, she made a beeline for her bedroom, closing the door softly behind her. She wasn't the kind to slam things. That would only draw attention. And Eva, she had mastered the art of disappearing, even in her own home. But her father noticed. His deep voice carried through the door. "Everything okay?" She hesitated. Her fingers curled around the strap of her backpack. For a second she considered telling him. But then just as quickly she let the thought go. She dropped the bag onto her bed. "Yeah," she called back. "Just tired." "Was I? All right. Dinner's in an hour." She listened as his footsteps faded down the hall, only then allowing herself to exhale. He had enough on his plate. Moving to a new town, stepping into the chief's office, dealing with the chaos left by the last guy. She wasn't about to add middle school drama to his list of problems. She could handle it. Or at least, that's what she told herself. Except the next day, Connor made sure she couldn't ignore him. Started early. Before first period, as she pulled books from her locker, something slammed into her back. Hard. She lurched forward, forehead nearly hitting the cold metal. Laughter. Slowly she turned. Connor leaned against the lockers, smirking. "My bad, Sinclair," he drawled. "Didn't see you there." Her fists clenched at her sides. But she said nothing. That was what he wanted. A reaction. And when she didn't give him one, Connor took it further. By lunchtime, the whispers had already spread. "Did you hear?" someone murmured as she passed. She tried to fight Connor. "No way." "Yeah." Swung on him and everything. "Bet," she cried after. Eva stopped in her tracks. Her mouth went dry. Across the room, Connor sat at his usual table, scrolling through his phone, grinning like none of it mattered.